citizens of the free world. I am Hoverman Cop, defender of justice, defender of the people, defender of the earth. In Taylor, Michigan, we have a female complainant who called the Taylor Police Department regarding her boyfriend by the name of Brendan Morgan, whom she states fought with her and damaged her apartment. Taylor police officers arrived to the location, gathered her information for the report. While doing so, an officer patrolling that area saw Mr. Morgan in the vehicle description that stated that he was in fact that person in the vehicle or not. I don't know, but for sure the vehicle matches the description based on the information given by the complainant. The lights are turned on by the police officer. Basic procedures. Mr. Morgan in the vehicle sees the lights on and goes into a gas station parking lot and stops. After doing so, that is another sign for the police officers to do another basic common police work, to get out of the vehicle and approach the vehicle. And to approach the vehicle, he would have to know, or she, the officer, would have to know that the driver or whoever is inside the vehicle is Mr. Morgan. So what a police officer would do is ask questions of the driver. Ask the driver's name, date of birth, driver's license. And if the driver is not Mr. Morgan, whoever else was in the vehicle that will match the description, the name, date of birth of Mr. Morgan. Then after that information is gathered, that police officer is supposed to either call the district attorney at the scene after detaining Mr. Morgan at the scene, or wait, bring Mr. Morgan back to the original scene and gather his information as to what happened in the apartment of the female complainant, then call the district attorney and have them make the decision to make an arrest or not for Mr. Morgan for the domestic violence disturbance or altercation. Choose or pick. Now, that is basic police investigative work that should always be done anywhere in this country we call America. Any police officers will conduct themselves in that manner. Now, did that happen? Did the officer who pulled over Mr. Morgan in fact know that the driver was Mr. Morgan? Did the police officers all on that scene on the traffic stop, did any one of them? It is a fact that the one who initiated the traffic stop, he didn't do that. So the question is, did any other officer go to the vehicle, gather the information needed to determine whether or not Mr. Morgan was in that vehicle? No, they did not do that. The other question is, if they didn't do that, how did they know that in fact Mr. Morgan was driving that car, or whether or not Mr. Morgan was in that car? Because if they knew he was in the car or not, they took the driver of that vehicle out of the car. But that's not how it really went. They pointed a gun at the driver of that vehicle, approached the vehicle, assaulted the driver of that vehicle, pulled, yanked on the driver of that vehicle. No one knows who that driver is, but they have a gun in the face of that driver in the vehicle. Every police officer at that scene is yelling commands to this driver to get out of the vehicle. And I want you all to watch and listen to the report analysis, and I will return and give my conclusion of this incident.
Early hours of April 1st, a woman called Taylor police to report that her boyfriend had fought with her and damaged her apartment. Officers quickly located Brendan Morgan's car. In this dashcam video, you can see that as soon as the officer turns on his lights and siren, Morgan turns into a gas station. 34 seconds later, this happens.
Hold this! Throw that in my car! Get out of the 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 car! I'm getting out! Hold on, let me get the door. Let me get the door. Let me get the door. Ow! Get the
Morgan says he was pushed onto his right arm and he could not get it free for officers to handcuff him. That's when one of the officers used his taser.
Hey, tase him! He's not giving me Get out the right. There we go. There we go. Stop fighting! Stop fighting! Stop fighting!
Once the 33-year-old from Southfield is handcuffed, this is what one of the officers says.
Welcome to Taylor. You shouldn't fight with the police, brother.
Officers said in their reports that Morgan refused to stop his car and that he began to walk away from his vehicle. So officers escorted Morgan to the ground. That's how a misdemeanor domestic violence case got charged as felony fleeing police and felony assaulting or obstructing police.
I complied, so why am I being treated like this?
The police reports show Morgan was only driving about 5 to 10 miles an hour, and Morgan says he had a good reason to wait those 34 seconds to stop.
I just wanted to be safe. I pulled into a lighted area and it was still treated like I was such a threat.
The behavior of these officers is reprehensible. They act like a mob.
Todd Russell Perkins is Brendan Morgan's attorney.
Mr. Morgan fought never. When he rolled down his windows, he was assaulted. There's no explicable reason why this unfolded in the way that it did, other than these people should just not be the police.
What went through your mind when they said, "Welcome to Taylor"?
I didn't want to go to jail then. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be in there. Care.
Taylor police sent the Wayne County prosecutor an 11-page warrant request, and Morgan was charged the next day. But no one from the prosecutor's office ever asked for the video of the arrest until the middle of June, 2.5 months later. Once the case got to court in late July, and once the judge saw the video, the felony fleeing and obstruction charges were dismissed.
That courtroom prosecutor should have reported that to their supervisor, and that should have taken some effect, and they should have initiated some form of investigation.
When you put these charges on me, I have to buy myself out, buy an attorney, lose money, lose work, just because you lied on me. It's not fair.
We're not satisfied with policing like that. We want to be professional. We want to treat people with respect. And that's how we're going to operate here in the city of Taylor.
Taylor Police Chief John Blair says he disciplined his officers for their actions the day after the arrest. Blair also says the entire department participated in training on diversity, implicit bias, and de-escalation tactics.
We self-monitored. We found this. We reacted not because someone else brought it to our attention. We found it. We corrected it with discipline. We changed policy. We provide training to the entire department.
Why did your officer say, "Welcome to Taylor"?
Again, we don't appreciate comments like that. That's not the way things should be done.
Do you feel like that's a racist statement?
Absolutely not. You're not going to screw around in the city of Taylor. That could be a a white person, it could be an African American, it could be Hispanic, it could be no, I don't see that as racist at all.
I'm happy to be alive. That's why I didn't pull over on that side street. Who, Lord knows what would have happened.
The Wayne County prosecutor would not talk to me on camera about this case, but her spokeswoman told me that after we made them aware of this case, they have now referred it to their public integrity unit for review. Reporting live in Taylor, I'm Heather Catallo, 7 Action News.
A tough video to watch. Thank you so much, Heather, for your...
Now, you have just seen multiple police officers approach this vehicle aggressively, violently, in direct aggressive behavior with the use of force that was illegal and criminal to that citizen whom they don't even know for sure whether or not if that is Mr. Morgan, whom the female complainant stated fought with her. They disregarded basic fundamental professionalism as a police officer. And what they did, I'll tell you, you saw it for yourself. They grabbed Mr. Morgan, pulled and yanked on Mr. Morgan. One of the officers with the gun in the face, inches away from Mr. Morgan, with his finger either on the trigger or near the trigger that could have shot Mr. Morgan, and at the same time, with his other hand, closed fist, punches Mr. Morgan in the face. All of these officers are yelling at him to get out the car. While telling him to get out the car, they are pulling on him to get out the car. But how could he get out of the car when multiple officers are blocking him from getting out of the car? Now, while the gun is in his face, he's being punched in the face. He's being pulled from all different directions while in the car. He remains calm and is not aggressive. He is non-violent while being assaulted and attacked, terrorized, and about to be killed by these gangster-like behavior so-called police officers in Taylor, Michigan. So one of the officers finally came to the conclusion that he was not able to get out of the vehicle, so they opened up the door and yanked him out of the vehicle, grabbing on him from all directions, from the arm, from the shoulders, from the neck, all different areas of his body. It was impossible for Mr. Morgan to put his hands behind his back to be handcuffed while being yanked and pulled. Now he's thrown to the ground, knees on him, hands and everything on him, still being pushed by another officer, punched by another officer. Then after they decided to now do this, the use of force, the constitutional rights, basic fundamental police actions by these officers are all thrown out of the window. If there was ever a window to throw it out of, there wasn't none, because they decided to be the illegal enforcers of U.S. terrorism in Taylor, Michigan, on that suspect, possible suspect, who is now a complainant, who was attacked, tased, and could have died on that night for what? If he committed a crime, all they had to do was detain Mr. Morgan, put him in handcuffs, but they didn't do that. They didn't want to do that. That was their moment. You had 2 or 3 officers already at the complainant's original location gathering information, and then you had multiple officers at the traffic stop. So that means either Taylor, Michigan does not know how to handle basic police investigations because nothing clearly is going on there enough for at least 1 or 2 officers to be at that location to handle that problem. So it was their moment to shine and to abuse, to me, from what it seems like, you judge for yourself, to terrorize that man, Mr. Morgan, and they did just that. So, after they tased him, assaulted him, beated him, throwed him down to the ground, one of the officers ended the gangster act by saying, "Welcome to Taylor." Well, that was one welcoming that you all will never forget, because you are now given a warrant for your arrest from the kingdom of heaven. And your judgment shall be forever punished beyond this life if you do not remove yourselves. You all are guilty of crimes committed against Mr. Morgan. And to top it all off, your leader, Chief John Blair, is just as guilty. He chose to discipline these officers and not charge them for the crimes that they committed against Mr. Morgan. And to add insult to injury, the disrespect, the dishonor, and despicable actions of their leader, Chief John Blair, he decides to give everyone at the Taylor Police Department training and being implicit biased, de-escalation tactics, and diversity training. That is to say that these officers need to be trained and taught how to treat citizens of Taylor. That is almost to say that if a Taylor police officer is using drugs, drinking on the job, and goes and drives a patrol car and hits a building, then that would mean all they would need is to have training on not to drink and drive while on duty? Or is that justification to not only fire an officer that would do that, but to charge that officer of intoxication? Would that same rule apply? So you have a bunch of Taylor police officers, are you telling me, Chief, that you have hired, that Taylor, Michigan City have hired police officers who do not know how to conduct themselves and treat citizens in Taylor in the best way that you have shown your leadership is to say to give training, to encourage more of your officers to terrorize citizens in Taylor. And if that wasn't enough, the prosecutor of Taylor handling this investigation failed to even look at the video and had Mr. Morgan placed in jail and charged with felony evading, fleeing from police officers for assaulting those police officers and malicious destruction of property, which were all lies, and the chief, John Blair, awarded the lying of these police officers who lied on documentation in the reports to have that man put in jail on false accusations, and he awarded them with just discipline. Chief Blair, you Taylor officers who assaulted that citizen, your badges should be removed and forever buried, and you all should be put in jail for the remaining of your days till it is determined the last length of a day that you shall spend for your wickedness, your betrayal to your oath to protect and serve, and what you did to Mr. Morgan. Your God, my God, if you accept him or not, he is the final judge that will give his judgment upon you all for the crimes you committed against that man. That was not justified. It was illegal, immoral, unethical, unconstitutional, and against the commandments of God. Citizens of the free world, it is up to us to bring justice to all who is in need of it, and to destroy all acts of evil and criminal acts committed by police officers who are terrorists and are wearing the badge and causing more harm than good, and putting the lives of many good officers in danger for their evil acts. That is not representation of police officers who do police work to the best of their abilities to protect and serve. It is my prayer that neither one of those officers and the chief and that prosecutor will never have nights of peace, but will and shall forever be marked and judged by God if you repent not and remove yourselves from your positions. This is my verdict. This is what I say. This is what I command that God will do to remove those officers and that chief who has dishonored and disgraced the badge they upheld to serve and protect. They failed and did none of that which they should have done to ensure the trust of all citizens. Taylor, Michigan. May each and every one of you live with justice and peace.